Tomorrow, the Seattle Mariners are back from All-Star break. They left the break with two All-Stars, Logan Gilbert and Andres Munoz, and neither played, unfortunately, in the All-Star game. We knew Logan Gilbert wasn't going to play. Munoz thought maybe he'd come in the 8th or 9th, didn't come in. But we left the break at 52-46, one game ahead of the Houston Astros in the AL West. We squandered a 10-game lead in the division. That 10-game lead was just a few weeks ago, maybe 2 weeks ago. So it's quite disappointing. It's frustrating that we got there, but ultimately, when's the last time the Seattle Mariners were up at the All-Star break in first place in the division? So that's the key point here. Now, the frustrating part was near the end of this break, before that start of the break. Every time the Mariners won 3 in a row, the Astros would win 3 in a row. Every time the Mariners would lose 2 or 3 in a row, the Astros would lose 2 and 3 in a row. And we could never really catch a break to get back. They were just hovering around 1 or 2 games for the last week and a half, and we ended at 1 game. Now, the scary part, 3 games against the Houston Astros coming up this week, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. If you lose that lead, if you don't win 2 out of 3, we're in a scary spot. And that's just the reality. I'd love a sweep. It's probably not going to happen. I'm just being realistic. But we're in a scary spot because despite the Astros being 1 game behind us, they're 3.5 games behind in the wild card. There are a lot of good teams. The Boston Red Sox are 3rd in the AL East at 53-42. Okay, like we'd be 2.5 games behind them. You know, you have the Kansas City Royals are 52-45 in 3rd place in the AL Central. Even the AL Central has 3 teams in 50 wins. The AL East has 3 teams at the 50 win mark. The AL West has 2, and the Rangers are 46-50, but they won 2 in a row to end the break, and you never know. They could get hot. They could get good. Let's just be realistic. They won the World Series last year. You never know how a team shapes out in the second half. But if we lose 2 out of 3 to the Astros, for example, we're going to be looking at from the outside in. We'll be looking at a team that's 3 or 4 games back of the wild card now, from being in first place, 10 games up in the division 2 weeks ago, to 2 or 3 games, 4 games, maybe even out in the wild card. So this weekend is essential. Now, it feels like even though we lost 3 in a row to end the break, there were some positive things. Obviously, the pitching, I don't even want to talk about the pitching. We're we the best staff in baseball. I don't even know if it's arguable anymore. Maybe there's some ups and downs, but the best pitching staff in baseball. The bats have been so inconsistent. We have 60 more strikeouts than any team in baseball. The Oakland A's have 60 less than us, yes. We're over 1,000 strikeouts at the All-Star break. The batting average, I think we're still worst in the MLB at 219. Worse than the White Sox, worse than the A's, worse than whoever. 219. The positive side to that I said there's some good and bad. It felt like there's a couple guys like Jorge Polanco that got a couple hits near the end of this week where you felt like, okay, maybe something's coming out of that. Julio Rodriguez had a couple really nice games. Cal Raleigh had multiple homers. I think he had 5 or 6 homers in the last 10 games or 11 games. So something brewing there. And at the end of the day, Victor Robles looked like maybe the Mariners' best hitter for a couple days. Maybe the first player ever to come to the Mariners and be fixed. It's usually the opposite. They leave and they get fixed. He came here and he might have actually been fixed. It's a remarkable situation, but you never know. Maybe Scott Service won't play him because that's what Scott Service does sometimes. I'm not even trying to be negative. It's just the reality. Sometimes you see things. Everyone's like, oh, Bliss is playing great. Play him. And then Polanco's in for 3 weeks. So you never know. End of the day, there was those small positives that Julio looked a little better. Polanco looked a little better. Cal Raleigh's looking a little better. J.P. Crawford's looking a little better. But at the end of the day, if that batting average stays at 219, if the strikeouts, you can swing big, okay? If the strikeouts result in a lot of home runs and a lot of runs and still a decent batting average, I'm fine with it, right? But where do we sit at home runs right now? We sit at 10th at 109, 40 behind the Orioles. That's okay. But like if we're going to be the number 1 strikeout team by a huge margin and the lowest batting average team by a decent margin. I mean, outside of the White Sox are 220, we're at 219, but after that, Athletics 227, Pirates at 231. We're almost 12 points behind. So it's a pretty big gap. You got to get the pop up. You got to get the homers up. You got to get runs going. If the Mariners can improve the bats at the deadline or just organically by 10 to 15%, we're going to see a whole difference. And it's nothing to be excited about if you see it at or you can be excited, but it's nothing to be like, wow, what a phenomenal team batting. If they improve by 10 to 15% in terms of batting average, in terms of less strikeouts, we're still looking at a bottom 10 team in batting. But all of a sudden, that plus 19 run differential becomes with the pitching that we have, becomes maybe we're at plus 40. Maybe instead of giving the pitchers 1 or 2 runs a game, we're giving them 2 or 3 runs a game. And all of a sudden, you're feeling a lot better. So that's something that I'm just, I think that's all we can hope for is either make an impact trade, whether it's, whoever. I don't know who's going to be available. The problem is it's going to be somebody from the Rays maybe because they're the only one that's not really in that race. But you go to Arizona, they're back in the race. You go to the Mets are now back in the race. You go to whoever in the AL. I mean, everyone's in the race in the AL. I mean, it's like almost like even the Rangers are kind of still in the race. You have teams that are just not going to be willing to give up. I don't know if the Oakland A's would give up Brent Rooker to the Mariners. They probably wouldn't. So there's so many teams that are in this that it's hard to find teams that are ready to just quit on the year. You have in the AL, you have 3 teams in the AL West, 3 teams in the AL East, 3 teams in the AL Central that are all competing for either a wild card or the division. Nobody's just going to give things up. The pitching, like I said, not a problem. We're a 3rd best ERA in baseball at 3.46 behind the Braves and Phillies. Good company to be around. It's not, there's nothing we can say about the pitching. We have the 2nd least runs allowed in all of baseball. We have, we don't give up, super crazy amount of home runs. We're in the top 10. I'm just trying to see, there's not even improvement you can ask for. The least walks in baseball have been issued by the Seattle Mariners at 234. I mean, there's not much to complain about here. We were 16th in strikeouts. Here's a complaint. The pitching can cause a little more strikeouts. It's a joke. I don't care. They're top 1 to 3 group in baseball. So all we can sit on is, will the Bats get out of last place at 219 in batting average? Will the Bats get out of last place in strikeouts? One of them at least at 1,013 strikeouts in the first 98 games. Can they get out of something? If not, there's a high chance we lose that division really soon, aka in this weekend. If we can start getting the bats going, make an impact move, go get someone. Go get an impact bat. Luis Roberts might not be that guy. Jazz Chisholm might not be that guy, but it'd be something. You might have to overpay a little bit, be something better for your lineup. And you can maybe save that division. You can win it. I don't think we're getting the wild card spot this year. I think there's one team going to come out of the AL West because 2nd place right now in the AL West is 3.5 games behind already. You got to keep this division. You got to go take 2 out of 3 or go sweep the Astros and make a statement. Get this second half started off right. There's 64 games left. You got to make an impact move, or Julio, JP Crawford, Cal Raleigh, Polanco, Garver. These guys got to wake up, do something, and make a huge impact. Otherwise, we're going to be looking from the outside and be very disappointed this year. I'm hoping it works out. I'm being positive as I can because there's nothing more that I want than to see this work out. I love y'all, and let's go win.